It's the Hey, You Made Your Movie Show, hosted by Carl Diamond.
Ow. Hey, cinephiles and filmmakers, welcome to the Hey, You Made Your Movie Show, the show where we talk to indie filmmakers who recently released their debut feature. I'm your host, Carl Diamond, and thank you for tuning in. Androids. Damn thing doesn't even work with its app. How is it supposed to take over the world? Hi, I'm Carl Diamond. And on this episode of Hey You Made Your Movie, I'm dealing with androids, because it's the theme of today's movie. I had the opportunity to speak with Darryl Shaw, a filmmaker out of Canada, who recently released his debut feature film, Android Re-Enactment. And I'll put the poster right here. It was nice talking to Darryl, so before I roll the trailer, I have one favor to ask you. Please hit that like and subscribe button you see there. It really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm and allows you not to miss any future content. So, without further ado, here is Darryl Shaw's Android Re-Enactment.
So you're redoing this dinner thing with Candy, right? Cool. Obviously, this was an important day for you. You needed to be heard. I understand. You like this girl. You want to impress her parents. That well, not me, but Mater. Let's say Mater Zero comes along and sweeps her up off of her feet. Sound familiar?
I just want to be the better man on that day. Okay, I need to know if there was even a chance. I've run the simulation like 50 times and I never win. Unless I rig it. It's a matter of perception. I'm controlling my perception. Bam! Bam!
No! I can't take a body! It's not an android!
There is still something! So who's playing God now?
Something's wrong with the robot. And Darryl Shaw, hey, you made your movie.
Yeah, about 12 years ago.
You got distribution recently.
That's right. That's what we did. We recut it and got distribution. Honestly, yeah, maybe closer to 8 years ago it was done. And then we recut it, and here we are.
So you had a different cut a couple years ago, and then you recut it recently? How soon was that?
We were all busy doing other stuff, and this just sort of came about. The distribution came about through Toronto Film Fest, the party. Met a friend actually I work with a lot, but it was just the right timing, I guess. And he's like, hey, let's put Android out. So here we are.
That's cool. With the rise of streaming. Well, it's past the rise of streaming now, I think. Now we're living in the age of streaming.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So how are you today? How you doing? You doing good?
Yeah, nothing too crazy today.
How's it over there in Toronto?
Well, it's a weird winter, man. I don't know. It's up and down. It could be an environment thing. Maybe some red flags, but it's getting cold and hot over here. It's pretty weird.
Here in California. It's warm outside, but it's freezing inside my house. I don't know how that works. So I'm wearing a coat. In California, freezing is like 60 degrees, so I don't have too much sympathy for us.
You've been there? You always lived out there?
In California since I was 10. I used to live in Illinois where it was a lot colder. Some more Midwest, got snowy winters and really hot summers, and then moved out to San Diego, lived there until I was 18. And then I went to San Francisco, and this about 6 years ago came down to LA. How about you? You always lived in Canada?
I've been bounced around a bit, primarily Toronto. I mean, I grew up in Ottawa, and then my parents are Jamaican, so I lived in Jamaica for a little bit. I was an exchange student to Norway, and then I came to Toronto for film school and starting out that thing when I was around 23.
So when you were growing up, you just said you went to film school, but when you were growing up, were you surrounded by creative people, or how did filmmaking? How did you say, hey, I wanted to do filmmaking?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned I'm surrounded by creative people. We weren't really making stuff. Like, I mean, through grade school, I loved drawing. I was hoping to be a comic book artist originally. I got some drawing skills, but I know I'm not, like, I didn't have that aptitude. But when I discovered that storyboards are very similar to comic books, I got super excited.
You have to draw them once, and then it makes the other job way easier later. So, how old were you when you started learning about film? Were you like a teenager, a kid running around with the camera?
Well, you know what? I got a prop right here.
Oh, cool.
I was about 15. I bought this from a pawn shop in Ottawa, Super 8 camera.
Which one is that? The Canon, or is that the?
Canon S18.
I have that exact camera actually. I have the Super 8mm version of that. It does not work.
It's Super 8.
Oh, it is? No. Oh man, that's awesome, man.
So I bought. Oh, one other cool thing, another prop. I bought this book, How to Make Movies or Making Movies by John Russo.
I haven't heard of that one. Go on.
He's the co-writer of Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it had like all these amazing interviews with like Sam Raimi and I believe the Coen brothers, just a lot of like indie horror filmmakers. And I love horror movies, so it was a really fun read. The cool thing is I actually met him and got him to sign that book years later.
Oh, sweet. That's awesome, man.
Decades later.
Stepping away from the actual process, what was your actual first memory of watching a movie?
Let's see. Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters, okay.
My parents took me to see it in the theater when I was really small, and it really stuck out to me because I remember having hot chocolate with marshmallows after. You know, just imagining them eating the Marshmallow Man.
It must have been a surreal experience.
Oh, it was great. Yeah. Such a magical movie, man.
Oh, it's great. Have you watched Movies That Made Us? I think it's like a Netflix thing.
Oh, yeah. I saw that one. I saw that episode, and I saw the Die Hard one, and they're both
so good. So good. But I'm blown away by how they really had no time to make Ghostbusters, and they just made it anyway. And everything was like the first take.
Oh, I don't even remember that part. That's great.
All the special effects were the first take.
That's insane.
So Ghostbusters, that was the one.
It's worth mentioning one other influence was when I was about 4 years old, my brother showed me Poltergeist. And that, I think that made a mark.
Are there any other creatives in your family?
My family's more of a sports family, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I mean, my son, I have a 4-year-old son. He seems like he's going to be pretty creative. My sister wrote short stories in high school, and I liked them. My mom was an English teacher at the time, but more on the nonfiction side of things. And then I guess my grandma painted. But yeah, I don't know. Nothing really specific that I can identify, you know?
Were they supportive of your decision to go, hey, mom and dad, grandma, sisters, I'm gonna be a filmmaker?
Well, not really. Some of them, like my brother and sister, are supportive, and my mom and my dad passed away, but he sort of came around near the end. But I guess, you know, and they're kind of right. I'm not like rolling in money, man. Every day is a struggle for the starving artist, right? But I don't regret it, and they came to understand that's what I want to do. And
yeah, it's like, what else are we gonna do, right? Did you try anything else, or did you say, you know, I'm just gonna go with this?
I mean, I've done all kinds of jobs to survive. Like I said before, the comic book artist, after I realized that comic books and storyboards have commonalities, and then I like writing, and then, you know, marrying like story with like moving image and just sort of Voltroning all the arts, I was like, it's got to be movies.
That's actually a great comparison. I've heard people say filmmaking is a combination of everything, but I've never heard them say Voltroning. It's what it is. It's like all the robots come together and make Voltron.
Yeah, I think video games are going to be the superior art. I mean, you can't really. If I was coming up now, I would probably be more aimed towards video games, just because that seems like the bigger Voltron now, right?
Oh yeah, that's the ultimate. It's like the super Megazord, right?
Yeah, because involving people in your creation like that must be super fulfilling.
It's interesting to note though that a lot of the video game guys who grew up who like started up in the industry as video game artists are really either failed filmmakers or they're going to start doing film now, like Hideo Kojima, and I think the folks over in Remedy. Are you a fan of Kojima?
Yes.
Oh, me too, man. So good. Did you play Death Stranding?
I have it. And I don't know how you guys feel about spoilers on your Upside Down. Yeah. Great game.
It's good, right? A lot of people, you know, were dumping on it, but I don't think I've played anything like it before.
I love how bizarre it is and how it continues to unfold.
He has this weird love for the absurd, and he just captures it in a way that's like, oh, this is the most beautiful thing. This is like a Alfonso Cuarón or like some sort of Children of Men, Birdman type cinematography. I forget And then you look at what it is, and it's Norman Reedus naked crying over a ghost of a baby. Like, what is this? This is amazing.
It is amazing. It It's like origami unfolding, man. It just gets weirder and weirder.
So, tell me about your. You said you went to film school. Where did you go? And you came back to Toronto for film school?
Yeah, I was chasing film. I didn't immediately go to film school. I worked at the Uptown Theater, which is now torn down, but it was a TIFF theater at the time. So I didn't even know that. I just thought it was like a really beautiful theater. And I begged them for a job, and they hired me. And I was just an usher for a while, but I got to see like one of the first screenings of Memento, just cleaning up popcorn there. And Christopher Nolan was there, and just a good vibe, you know, a lot of cool stuff going on there. And through that, I met this guy, Colin Geddes, who's a programmer. He programmed for many years at Midnight Madness. So I ended up being like an office intern for him and learning a lot. And then, yeah, I did go to film school, went to Trebas. So I went there and met more people, spread through different people to get where I am today.
What is film school like in Canada? I only have experience. I didn't actually go to film school, but I was parallel with film school. I hung out with the film school people. So I kind of know how film school kind of works in Los Angeles, but how does it work by you?
I don't want to throw my school under the bus, but it was an intensive program. I mean, I like to say I went to a fast food film school, which probably maybe should say that, but it was just like they really churn out, you know, you put your money in, you go, and it's not fair to say that because I had some really great teachers. What I can say is there was a feud going on between the two most prominent schools like that in Toronto. So Trebas and Toronto Film School. And a lot of my favorite teachers got sucked into Toronto Film School. So midterm, we got like new teachers, right? And I had more of a kinship with the first teacher, so I was kind of bitter about that. And I ended up just hanging out a lot at Toronto Film School, even though I wasn't a student there. Ended up like running auditions through there and recruiting other crew through there, and like got nothing to do with the school that I started at. So it was pretty weird.
Well, that's cool though. It's like, hey, are you using this room? Yeah. Do you go here? No. What do you want to do about it?
Yeah, well, the director of the school noticed, and the irony was he was originally at Trebas, but now he got hired on by the school because it was a bitter war. And he's like, Darryl, you're here more than most of my students. Yeah, I don't know. It was a marvelous facility, man. I don't think it's there anymore, but it was at the CBC building downtown Toronto. If you're ever in Toronto.
So did they have, was it the age of digital, or was it, were you still shooting on film back then?
Film school, like one of the things that made me want to be at the other school was they had XL1s. That was like the shit back in the day.
Oh yeah, I love that camera.
At my school, they had some, I don't know, maybe it was a 3-chip camera. Like I think it was like the PD100 or something. It just, compared to the XL1, it just wasn't cool, you know?
So we're talking mini DV era.
Yeah, absolutely. Mini DV right before, I guess it's before card reading cameras and before DSLRs.
Oh yeah, that's about, so like we're thinking
2000.
Like 2005, 2006, or
2002,
like
baby.
2002. Wow. In 2002, I had a Sony Handycam, so you're doing a little better than.
I didn't own it, but yeah, I could sign them out.
Well, you know what I used actually when I was hanging out with the film club was they had this old Super VHS camera. It had a terrible battery, so I had to plug it in whenever I wanted to use it, and no one else wanted to use it. Everyone else wanted to shoot on the XL2, actually. They were using the XL2 or the I think it's like the GL1, and I didn't have access to those cameras, so I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I took the Super VHS and I plugged it into, I had a Canon Allura, and that had that had an S video in on it. So in order to capture the Super VHS to mini DV, I plugged the Super VHS camera into my Allura and just dubbed it over through that.
Pretty crafty.
Yeah, it worked out. It came out with some pretty weird looking imagery, but I liked it. It was fun, and it was fun using one of those old cameras, which just had better gear on it than my Canon Allura, but the Canon Allura had mini DV, so.
Adam Buller, one of my best friends, and we've made a bunch of stuff together. He's an actor that he came to produce, and he's a musician. He's based in Niagara Falls. Shout out to Adam Buller. Yeah, he was just constantly buying weird shit on the internet. At one point, he had these VHS reporter cameras, and they looked so awesome. They were just huge, very professional, like very nice lenses, but recording to VHS. He lent me one of those, and I made a short film called Plant Life, which very small, short, quick shoot. It's on Vimeo.
We'll make sure to put a link to that video in the show notes. Another question about Canada and the film scene over there. What's the indie film scene like over there? When you had your movie, and how did you want to deal with it locally?
Again, through Adam Bullard, we were able to shoot in Niagara Falls, which I want to say is the most magical place, man. In Toronto, Toronto is more of a grizzled film veteran kind of town. I don't know how it is in LA, but here, if you pull out a camera, you're going to attract attention and you better have a permit.
It's exactly how it is in LA, man. It's like they look for you.
Yeah, and in Niagara Falls, people welcome it, man. I mean, at least I'm talking about the real, not necessarily the tourist areas, but the sort of back area, like where the locals really live, you know, off the strip. They were very welcoming, and we just got a lot of cool stuff for free. Stuff would just come to us. So for Android now, like we got this, it just showed up one day. I guess it must have been through Adam, but there was a hydraulic lift to in the trailer. I don't know. You saw the movie, right? When they put her up on the thing. Like, that's like a real working device, and it just sort of landed in our lap. The conveyor belt, there's a little action scene with a conveyor belt. That was a real, that wasn't in the script. We're just like, holy shit, there's a conveyor belt here. We were in an abandoned Canadian Tire at the time, with permission, but you're in an abandoned Canadian Tire, and like nothing there, man. Like, raccoons were like living there, and somehow there's this conveyor belt, and like, does this thing work? And it works.
So not only are you in an abandoned place, but they have power there, and the things work.
Well, and that Canadian Tire did. Now, where we shot the rest of the movie was across the street at this place called the Lindsay Press. And on our Facebook group, I just posted a picture of it like many years later. It's still abandoned. So filmmakers out there, go seek out the Lindsay Press. The Lindsay Press. There's a lot of cool rooms and just weirdness there. That's a lot of space to build stuff, really.
That's cool, and that's something that a lot of aspiring filmmakers and indie filmmakers out there right now should be listening to. Use what you have, what you find at your location. You know.
Yeah, I'm not like a superstitious guy, but I think it really is the law of attraction, man. Like, just when you're putting out positive vibes and having fun and just welcoming good things, strangely good things can come to you. So I meant to say also, yeah, so we did shoot in this building for, I want to say, 80% of the shoot, and they did eventually cut off the power. An organization that came in and bought up a bunch of buildings in Niagara Falls, I think they're gone now, but they were called Historic Niagara, and they were part of a revitalization program. So even though like the place could have theoretically been sold from underneath us or rented out, and they really wanted people there, you know, it's just sort of to get people talking about the town, get artists there, and not just us. There was a lot of painters and musicians and stuff, each with a little sort of boutiques where they were doing their projects.
That's cool. So they're trying to turn Niagara Falls into a artist community.
I don't know. Niagara's still really artsy, man. It's just there.
I have no idea, but that's really cool to learn that Niagara Falls has an artsy side to it.
Oh, absolutely.
As an LA guy, I just picture the water, and I realize there's a whole community around there.
So I should mention, again, my buddy Adam Bullard, he just opened a place called Camp Cataract, which is a really cool, kitschy, like really novelty-looking kind of bar. Hopefully future tourist attraction.
Camp Cataract, I love that name. So it's a bar?
Yeah, they have a bunch of old video games and pinball there and ping pong and...
oh, sweet.
They do comedies on Wednesday. They do, like stand-up comedy night.
Like that sounds like a place I would go to. Let's get into Android Re-Enactment. I'm going to go ahead and read the blurb off Amazon Prime. Ermis Daglek, retired empatech engineer, commandeers a defunct factory where he creates androids based on persons from his past and creates a dinner party where he lost the love of his life until the androids malfunction and escape. That's the movie. So where did the idea of the film come from?
Oh man, let's just say, okay, there's two sides of it. There's the personal story, and then there's the opportunity to make the movie. What would you rather hear about?
Well, I mean, both. Movies come from all over the place.
There was a girl that I knew that was kind of interested in at the time, and she invited me over to her house, and there was another guy, and they made out.
Oh jeez, I remember that scene in the movie. So I'm like, I'm watching this like this has to be personal.
I hadn't thought about it in years. It's just like I write a lot, and sometimes these sort of things come back, and you're like, okay, I'll take that one. Let's fight that one today. That was sort of the impetus of just the vibe of Ermis, you know, the exaggeration of what he was. The android part of it came about because I wanted to make an achievable movie where I could have a lot of violence and kill the same actors multiple times so I could keep my cast low and my violence high.
Okay.
And then the production side of it was my landlord, who was in the first short film I told you about, their Plant Life. He was going away with his wife, and they both invited me to shoot a movie in their house when they were gone. So I was like, oh! They had a really nice house. We were living in a basement apartment at the time. So I wrote this thing to shoot there, but just, as I said, the law of attraction, the more people came on, the more doors opened up until it wasn't even the most viable place to shoot anymore.
Did it end up in the movie still?
The house?
Yeah.
No, we shot it all in that would have been in Toronto. We ended up getting those big, empty sort of factory places in Niagara Falls.
And where was the final house? Candy's actual house?
That was the spot where, again, Historic Niagara had given us accommodations where we could sleep and stuff. So that was one of the places where a lot of us were sleeping.
They gave you lodging?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's ridiculous.
That's so cool.
If I could scapegoat anything, this is like why I'm having such a hard time making another movie, like another feature movie anyway, because we were so spoiled the first time, right?
This is great. Why can't we do the same thing? Oh,
yeah, what? You're not going to let us stay here for 2 weeks? Come on.
So the film comes from personal experience, and then also this being an opportunist, which is, I guess that's pretty common, I would think. I mean, in the indie film scene, it's like you have this, you have that. Let's make a movie. But then I also have these things from my life. What I got from the film was that it's about a moment the guy's trying to change in the past, and it's the danger of obsession over the past.
Sure, yeah, I can agree with that. And I mean, there's moments I would like to change, but in my life, that's not one of them. But yeah, that's where the character went, you know? Just let him be his own guy at that point.
So what was the budget like?
It's hard to sort of quantify, but I believe to get the movie in the can, it was about $12,000 Canadian.
Okay.
And then we met this guy, George Flores, who has now gone on to mix many, many movies. He's just got an insane resume. At the time, he had mixed maybe a half dozen or so, but he gave us a great deal.
And he was a sound mixer?
Yeah, he insisted that we go with him, and we paid way more. It's still like an extremely low rate for what he would charge, especially now. We came up with the money, and we did it there. And then I guess a lot of other money was spent on, like, we went to LA, traveled with the movie, little film fests here and there, film markets, AFM. So that sort of made the budget bloat, I would say, because we didn't really know what we were doing. But just to make it, it was about
17,000 Canadian. How did you raise it?
In bits and pieces, and Adam put in a chunk. I got a small chunk for my family. Our other guy that basically became co-producer, he put up a big chunk of change for the post-production sound, just in little bits and morsels. It wasn't like 17 out of the bank right at once, you know. This was over 4 years.
So it's 4 years of fundraising.
Like I said, we got a lot of stuff for free. The main fundraising was just like, I guess, the sound. We had a little bit of capital going in, and then we lucked out with a lot of stuff. Even food we lucked out with. There was places donating food to us.
It's amazing how easy you'd think the concept of donating food, it's like no one's going to give us food. And then you try and do it, and you find out people are giving you food.
We've made a bunch of stuff since Android, like no features, but we've made shorts of varying lengths. It is hard to replicate. It just is, you're just in the right time and place sometimes, right?
So how big was your crew?
It varied. I want to say some days we probably had like 10 crew members there plus actors. And then other days we just had maybe me and the DP and the sound guy, because like, volunteers coming and going, you can't really force anybody to stay, right?
Not unless you're paying them.
At people's convenience, they worked, and again, really lucky.
Oh yeah, super lucky. So what kind of camera did you shoot on?
We shot on the HVX 200, Panasonic HVX 200. So it was a single lens camera. This is before DSLR, but it was a Leica, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
Leica?
Leica, there you go. It had a very nice lens, but just the one lens, right?
It was a zoom lens?
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture that camera. I know I've seen it before.
The P2, it was really popular. I want to say that's the next super popular camera after the XL1 came out, in my world anyway. So when I found out that we get a P2, I was like, what? Because it was all digital. It shot to cards, which was like the best thing at the time. It was so cool. Shoot your movie with cards versus tapes.
I remember the transition. It's like, oh, you don't have to worry. We don't have to rewatch the thing. You don't have to rewind the tape. You don't have to. It's amazing. So one thing that stood out for me was the art direction in this film. It looks like a lot of stuff. There's a lot of practicals in it. What was the art direction like? Did you work with an art director? Were you in charge of making a lot of stuff too?
So we had a production designer, Mira Ross. She had worked on some of my short films, and she was really good, like very detail oriented. So she helped a lot with like the more practical looking sets. And then for the mainframe, we had another Niagara Falls artist come in sort of freestyle that with a bunch of junk. Like, it's been so long ago, I hope I'm not forgetting where things came from, but as a group effort, I mean, I know I wanted like a Geiger-esque looking mainframe, and then the other stuff just had to look as good as it could with the money and props that we had. I believe we borrowed a lot of stuff from an antique shop. They're pretty fast and loose in Niagara Falls. Like, you can get what you negotiate, you know? And then I guess it must be said the VFX was largely done by Jacob Murphy, another guy that had done a lot of effects on some of my earlier stuff. And Elena Seepy did the makeup in here. She's now a key makeup artist in Toronto. I guess I was involved. I bought all the wardrobe from like a thrift shop. It just came together in bits and pieces, you know. And again, I should credit Kevin Davidson, our DP, for just sort of fusing it all together in one sort of cool style.
Yeah, it looked very seamless to me.
So yeah, our design was to have like, again, this is just from budget because we knew we would be putting this place together with virtually garbage, right?
Yeah. Like
he doesn't have like a flat screen in his high-tech computer laboratory. They're all CRT. We're like, okay, we can't afford future, but we'll make it a retro future. So we try to make it like Jetsons-ish, you know?
Love retro future, man. One thing I like to talk about on these podcasts are things that go wrong. Murphy's Law in regards to making a film. What kind of stories do you have as far as things that went wrong on set?
Oh my God. This one wasn't too bad. There was some crazy stuff. Let me think. So the power was shut off in the building permanently at one point. We got generators. I guess that was the city. It wasn't our building, right? But I guess the people that had it, they just cut the power or whatever.
And was that like an oh fuck moment, you know? Or it's like, oh, what are we going to do?
You know what? That was just an afternoon kind of moment. You know what was the most brutal thing was the sound, okay? So as much as I love Niagara Falls and the Lindsay Press, it's like right next to like one of their main streets. From like 3 to like 7 or whatever, it's just like
oh,
traffic the whole time. And we had like some crude soundproofing, but it wasn't enough, you know? You can just feel every truck that went by. So it made shooting those dinner scenes like so excruciating because that was the loudest room there. So we had to constantly wait. And I don't even think there's probably some ADR in there. There's probably we didn't clean up all the sound perfectly in there, but I know that was just very stressful for everybody. And again, I have notes on our Facebook page of just a bunch of challenges we faced. But I want to say the biggest challenge was after the movie was done, is to get in front of an audience, you know.
Oh, really?
We played some small film festivals, and I have to say, I don't have any illusions of grandeur of what the movie is. At least I don't think I do. I mean, I like it and stuff, but I know it's not a huge commercial movie, obviously, right? But I didn't know what kind of film festivals we should be applying to. You know, I didn't have a lot of knowledge of that. And also, I hadn't really played, I think, any film festivals. I think it's like one of my earliest IMDb credits is this movie. I'm making excuses, right? But these are real factors. Like, for example, the cut that you saw is 7 minutes shorter than the original version. I feel like I cut out a lot of the stuff that slowed down the movie and was just like more mental weight on the audience, on their attention spans, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's been corrected, and that only came through the sort of wisdom of time, you know?
Fresh eyes and whatnot, you know?
Yeah, but just I've been writing since then, like getting feedback on scripts. You learn, right? And then you go back and like, oh, that's why this didn't work. You know, I'm doing this still. I should fix that. Luckily, it was a lot of like, say, repetitive or redundant dialogue I could trim out, or I could tell, okay, this scene should start later. And it was only like about 10 cuts, but just watching it with an audience, again, man, you can really tell where you would have lost people before that you don't this time. I mean, again, not everyone is going to love the movie, but I feel it plays better now, and that's just from time.
That's awesome. You got that opportunity to go back and re-edit your film like later with the gift of time and wisdom and experience to make a better product. You're worried that it doesn't play to certain audiences. Yeah, but with this podcast, I don't say things are good or bad. It's not going to play the same for you. It's not going to play the same for the next person who watches it. I judge things based on the effort. If there's no effort, I don't have them on my podcast. Filmmaking is so mind and body intensive. It thrashes you. One thing, we like to address the anxiety and fear that goes into the production. How did you stress manage any anxieties or fears that came up during the process?
So, okay, now that I think of it, we cast Jeff, that's the lead, at the last second because the other guy, who's still a good friend, he couldn't do it. Like we wanted another one of my friends, another indie filmmaker / actor. All of a sudden, he couldn't get the time off of work to do it. The movie came together like unusually fast. Like from writing it, it was like I feel like there was like a table read like a week after, maybe it was 2 weeks after I wrote the script, right? It just came together ridiculously fast. And that's just, I think, again, sort of inexperience, enthusiasm. I think I want to say innocent to to really register a lot of anxiety. I feel like as I grow older, I can more see the cracks in things, and I'm like less trusting of things that seem too good to be true, you know? So again, just having a really positive, almost naive outlook luckily helped us out there. Now, during the shooting of the movie, I had to go to Japan to meet my wife's parents for the first time. She was my girlfriend at the time, right? We had already scheduled this, and probably the movie was behind, like we weren't so great at being on schedule with that one. And I remember being very worried that I was going to come back and, you know, the actors wouldn't be around for whatever reason, or, you know, because I've had sort of creative groups break up for less, but luckily this group was just really dead set on making it, and it worked out.
That's awesome, man. That's kind of a fun transition. You're working on this movie intensively. Got to go to Japan, meet my girlfriend's parents. Got to go back and finish my movie.
Yeah, no, I was terrified to meet her parents too, right?
That's crazy. It's like, Darryl, you seem very calm to meet us. It's like, we're working on a movie. This is nothing.
No, I was pretty worried too. I want to say that the older I get, the more stress I can see. I hope I can sort of get back into that earlier mindset of just not having a care in the world, you know?
When you're younger, there's a naivety where it's just like, this is just going to work out.
Yeah, I think you got to do that. You got to be like that. Like there's a quote, worrying is like praying for bad things to happen.
Oh, yeah.
I think I saw that in a movie or something, and then they countered that with a different quote, like, you should worry. But I really think, like, positive thoughts, man.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if you're doing everything right. Things can still go wrong. But, you know, you should still aim for the good, I guess.
I would love to return to the positive naivety of a young filmmaker. It'd be so nice. It'd be like, oh yeah, whatever.
You're still young, man.
It's like, oh no, it's like, but like when I was like 21, I was insane. I was like, I'm the best director in the world. I'm gonna shoot the next piece on this DV camera.
Oh my god, dude! I didn't even tell you before we made that movie. I don't want to.
Do it, man. Whatever.
But before we made that movie, Adam and I met on another movie. That movie was called Pushover, and that was a feature, and that was a 17-day shoot, and that was a nightmare. Like, just about everything that could go wrong went wrong with that one. We had a car chase on a real street, and we got arrested.
Oh, what?
The police came and put my actors in the back of a police cruiser. Like, this is just total night. This is like right out of film school. With my film instructors, actually, they were back in that one. They were some young guys, right? I learned a bit about people. There were some rough situations that I don't really want to get into, but just conflicts between crew members. Long story short, the tapes were all stolen from the film school where it was, right? So that was a movie that, I mean, at the time, 17 days seemed like such a big deal, right? All my scripts and still a lot of pain and suffering in shooting something for it to just evaporate. So that was pretty traumatic.
It's really shitty, man. Excuse me. That sucks.
Just, I don't know. I guess having a good team of people around you for another thing that really alleviated fears of something like that happening again, you know?
So did someone break in? Did someone, like, how were they taken by the police? Or they stolen?
It's an unsolved mystery. There's suspects. There's different people that had different motives. It could have been, maybe it could have just been like something innocuous. You know, maybe the tapes dropped on the ground and were thrown out by the janitor. I have no idea what happened. I don't know. I'm over it. But
I think everybody has lost film stories of their early days. I was working on this one film in high school, and we shot it, and a friend of mine wasn't too familiar with cameras. He was just like, push the button, we'll make a movie. He'd forgotten to check the heads. He never cleaned his heads on his digital camera. So when we got it, it was all white. It was all white and blue, and it was terrible. Well, it was like a short film series with about hitmen, and since we had shot it at school, we had to use finger guns, and that was kind of funny. But we were like, okay, the sequel is going to have actual airsoft guns in it. We're going to use pellet guns, and we went out and shot it with pellet guns late at night in a park. It's amazing we got away with it because they look like real guns. Like, he had the idea of painting over the tips so it looked like real guns, without permits, near a school, and we were so proud of it. We used like natural light, and it looked great. But apparently it was completely lost, so we just reshot it all with finger guns.
Damn.
I hate to. No, if this podcast is about you, I don't want to tell my own stories, but
No. Hey, I like talking to filmmakers, man.
So what advice can you give someone who wants to get into filmmaking?
Keep going, man. I guess it's a cliche, right? But the main thing that has gotten anything made is just perseverance, just sticking to your guns.
Just do it, right?
Yep. And the more you learn by doing. That's the best lessons I got is just you learn by doing.
Do it and don't stop doing it, and have the naive.
Yeah, and I mean, I got to remember that too, you know? I was going to say, of note, another friend and I are co-producing a documentary. I'd say it's more his documentary, but he's brought me on as co-producer, called Clapboard Jungle, Surviving the Independent Film Business. I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say, but it comes out this year, and it will be premiering at a festival, which I can't say yet, but just look out for that. And with that, there's also a series tied in where some episodes will roll out too. So he has gone and interviewed many, many highly accomplished filmmakers and just about everybody behind putting a movie onto the screen to selling it and all that. So yeah, shout out to Clapboard Jungle.
That sounds awesome. I definitely check that out.
Okay. About 4 years in the making.
Nice. I'll have to check in with you later. As filmmakers, we are forced to learn and grow with every production. What did you have to learn over the course of making this film? And I apologize if you've already said it.
What was I forced to learn for this film? Well, one thing I learned, I want to say, is gratitude. Learn how to be more grateful for what people put in and of their time, you know? I guess things were happening so fast, I didn't fully grasp how lucky I was to have these great people working with me and helping the movie happen. Everything seemed to go relatively smoothly and people were happy and in good spirits, but just what I was getting just was ridiculous. Maybe identifying, and again, like I said, just the time before the first cut and now the new cut, I learned a lot about pacing and watching an audience watch your movie, I think is a huge lesson. Like the first public screening of the movie, we had filled the theater and you can just feel like everything that works and everything that doesn't work. You just see it like there's, like facts. So that was a big lesson. And I recommend test screenings as many people as you can get, that even, especially people that you don't know. That will be really good just to see like objectively what your movie is doing to people.
Some real life data. Gratitude is something that we don't think about too often. We just think everything comes to us, but learning to be grateful.
Yeah, I don't think too much about trying to make the world a better place or anything like that. Like, I'm not trying to say that, but it is like a really blessed job to have, to be able to make movies, No,
absolutely. It's
just the coolest thing, and yeah, it's weird that can exist in a world that has so many problems,
Right. It's like, yeah, there's wars over there. There's famine. I'm gonna go out with a electronic box and capture people lying, but they're lies that I made up. Let's talk about let's step away from the movie while we wrap this up. So for you, what are your favorite movies? I know we talked about Ghostbusters earlier. What are your favorites?
Okay, right now coming to mind, Audition by Takeshi Miike.
Okay, good one.
Battle Royale by Kinji Fukasaku. Love that movie. Lost Highway, Pulp Fiction, Videodrome, The Church, it's an Italian horror movie by Michele Soavi, Argento's proteges. I love that movie. It's just hypnotizing, mesmerizing. I love Nicholas Winding Refn.
You like Drive? Oh, I got my Drive poster right here, right there.
I'm very, very amped to see Uncut Gems.
Oh, dude, see it. It's great.
Oh, I'm so pumped for that. I love Good Time. Yeah, I like movies of all kinds of genres, man. I mean, I tend, like, my guilty pleasure, or just like what I align most to, is usually horror or maybe science fiction a bit too, crazy genre films. But I can find something to enjoy in many, many movies.
What's your biggest guilty pleasure?
I don't feel guilty about it anymore, man. But like maybe on paper, like Starship Troopers or RoboCop.
Oh, I love those movies. Those are great.
Right, but I don't think they're. Maybe now they are, but closer to when they were made, they weren't as, I want to say, recognized for their merit and how great they are. They're more just seen as B movies, right? But those, yeah, that's gold to me. Body Double.
The De Palma film.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one. I gotta check it out.
Oh, I don't want to spoil it for you. It's just not what I expected, and I'm so happy that it's just so weird.
And all right, so where can we find you online?
Okay, so mostly on Facebook. So if you go to our Android Re-Enactment page, I think my other pages are sort of linked through there, other just film projects that I did. If you go to Vimeo /God in the Grass, you'll find a bunch of our short films. And then, on IMDb, and I just discovered the Movie DB, which I think is really cool, or the Movie Database.
Movie database, okay.
It's like a sort of open source version of IMDb. I mean, this is all the same at this point, but I like that because it's just, you can just put up all kinds of photos and stuff there. It's pretty cool.
I'll have to check that one out. I'm going to backtrack for a second. What should we go out and rent right now?
Can you still rent movies?
I think you can rent stuff through Amazon. Like, you pay $3 and you have access to it for 24 hours.
You know, it was a neat movie that nobody's, I don't hear people talking about. I think unloved but really fucking cool movie was Most Beautiful Island.
Most Beautiful Island.
Shot in New York, put out by Glass Eye Pix. Writer, director, actress, same person. It's just very unsettling. Feels a little bit Refn-ish, like just being in the moment with a character as they're just... Have you seen the Pusher films?
I saw the first one.
Okay, you should watch. The second one is probably the best.
It's the one with Mads, right?
It just... really gritty in the moment, and somebody in a bad situation, and you're like, damn. Like, I like that movie. Very understated. Nothing blows up or anything, but I thought it was really cool.
I'll have to check that one out. I hope the listeners do too. So, Darryl Shaw, what's next for you?
Every year, man, I write a new screenplay, try to get it out there. I send it to some people in LA, man. I got a new weird vampire script that I just wrote over Christmas holidays. Bizarre sort of Cronenberg-y riff on vampires. So I'm going to try to make that. So there's the documentary coming out.
That's awesome, man. Speaking of Cronenberg, what do you think of the stills we've received for his son's film, Possessor?
Yeah, that looks cool.
That looks fucking awesome, right?
The face with like the eyes missing, or just like it just looked very, very creepy. And I never did see Antiviral, but that one I just sort of like, whoa, that really spoke to me.
All right, and where can we watch Android Re-Enactment?
So that's on Amazon Prime in the UK and USA and Canada, and it's on Vimeo, I think, everywhere. And yeah, hopefully some more places soon.
Cool, man. Well, Darryl, thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Thanks for having me, man.
Will we see you for the next for your next feature?
Hey, I like that. Put that vibe out there.
Yeah, man. All right, it's been great talking to you.
Likewise, man. Great to meet you. Have a good one.
The robot somehow ended up in kill mode. It chased me into this closet. I tried calling technical support, but they're closed because of COVID-19. So I guess I'm gonna wait out here. Maybe the batteries maybe it'll run out of batteries. Fingers crossed. So I guess that's our show. Thank you for watching the third episode of the Hey You Made Your Movie show. I really appreciate all the positive feedback I've been getting for the show. It means the world to me. A big thank you to Darryl Shaw, our guest. You can watch his movie Android Re-Enactment on Amazon Prime and on Vimeo. The links are below. If you haven't already, please hit that thumbs up, the like, and subscribe button right there at the bottom of your screen so you don't miss any future episodes, and it really helps us out. And are you a filmmaker who recently released their debut feature film and would like to be on the show? Please email me a link to your film at heyyoumadeyourmovie@gmail.com and I'll check it out. So for the Hey You Made Your Movie show, I'm Carl Diamond, and until next time, keep making movies, keep writing scripts, networking, and being proactive about your career. I can't wait to see all the movies you're gonna make, but first you have to make them. I'll see you soon.